Boxing truth here. Alright, now it's truly official. Manny Pacquiao picked Jesse Vargas for his return later this year on November 5th in Las Vegas. Now, that was expected. This fight to happen between Pacquiao and Vargas. Now, of course, the Pacquiao haters are going to say that Manny Pacquiao just ducked Terence Crawford, but no, that's not true. Pacquiao didn't duck that track runner, Terence Crawford, who ran like a motherfucker in his last fight against Victor Postol. I actually watched that fight again. It was crazy. There was a lot of sequences where Crawford was literally running around the ring for about 30, 50, up to a minute sometimes without throwing a punch. Gave him the fight by a couple of points. The knockdowns were the differences, but it wasn't a domination like the Crawford fanboys or the biased media will say. But anyways, a couple reasons why Pacquiao-Crawford is not happening. One, the Mayweather fight is still out there. And that's the fight Pacquiao truly wants. He's also not really going to be interested in fighting 140 pounds. I mean, just go by the track record. He hasn't fought there in 7 years. And that's the weight that Crawford's demanding that fight take place. Just look what he said in the press conference. Look what his team said. His trainer is insisting that when that fight happens, they want it at 140 pounds. But most likely Crawford's going to have to move his ass up to welterweight if he's going to get that fight, because Pacquiao will most likely pick up that strap that Vargas has for the WBO, and he will most likely stay at that weight to defend it. He's had opportunities in the past to move down to 140, Pacquiao has, and he hasn't done it. He could have did it with Marquez to fight him for his strap at that weight, at 140. He didn't. He fought him at catch weight twice in the third and fourth fights. He could have did it against Chris Algieri, Pacquiao. Fight Algieri for his strap at 140, but he didn't. He fought him at a catch weight. So it just seems like Manny Pacquiao is more comfortable fighting at around the welterweight division or in between. So Crawford will most likely have to move his ass up. Pacquiao doesn't need to meet him at 140 when he hasn't fought there in years. And besides, Crawford has pretty much no big opponents there at 140 at the moment. I mean, who the hell can he fight now? He's got 2 belts at that weight, but no opponents, no rivals. No big money fights. Guys that with belts like Trianovsky that people don't know, the American public doesn't know. A guy he beat already in Ricky Burns. He holds the other strap at that weight. And there's no big names. Adrian Broner moved up. Adrian Granados will be an interesting fight, but he's not really a big money fight, not a big name. So who the hell is Crawford going to fight next at that weight? Antonio Roscoe, who's the number 1 contender for the WBC. So eventually Crawford, your ass is going to have to move up, to go for bigger game, to where the big names are at. That's where the money's at, welterweight division. So if you want that fight, move your ass up, bro. Now, Pacquiao fighting Vargas is simply a fight to get in position to pick up another strap and then go for the Mayweather rematch, which most likely will happen in 2017. I mean, I expect it to happen. Mayweather's been making rumblings of a 50th fight, despite him denying that he's not coming back. Most likely, that's the fight that's going to happen in May 2017. It's still the biggest paydays out there for both guys, Mayweather and Pacquiao, even if the fight only does half the business it did in the first fight. And that's what it's about. Pacquiao's not going to fight beyond 2017, most likely, or at least according to Bob Arum. He's going to have 2 more fights. And don't worry, Crawford fanboys. Most likely, Pacquiao will fight Crawford sometime in 2017, but after a big money fight, which is possibly, well, most likely against Mayweather. And then they could fight late in the year, which is really like a passing of the torch fight. But Manny still has a lot left. He still has a lot left in the tank. I watched his last fight. He looked very good. The punch output was low, but he looked tremendous. I mean, he's still sneaky with the left hand, still very fast, explosive, still punches very hard despite not recording a knockout in almost 7 years. He still can hurt guys, he can still drop them, he can still beat them up. And he can be a tremendous counterpuncher when he can, especially when he's on. He countered the shit out of Bradley the whole night. Was patient, made Bradley make mistakes, and then Pacquiao would capitalize. Kept backing him up and popping him with the straight left hand over and over again. It was a domination, one-sided victory for Pacquiao, who looked tremendous. Not his... Of course, he didn't have the great punch output, but he still looked very good. And I was hoping for Crawford for this fight against November because it's the more intriguing fight. A lot of people will feel Pacquiao will get trashed even. I mean, well, based on some writers that just are fed up with Pacquiao, they want him to lose and shit. But nah, that's not a... I don't see Crawford doing that at all to Pacquiao. It's still a tough fight. Pacquiao is still a tough out in boxing. And had they fought in November, I still would have picked Pacquiao to beat him. Based on the way he looked against Bradley, he hasn't slipped all that much, man. He's still a pound-for-pound level fighter. Not the fighter he was back in 2010, but he's still a great fighter. And is still the best fighter by far Crawford will have faced in his career. So it's definitely not an easy fight. And it's a fight I still favor Manny over because of his experience, his speed, his ability to land his left hand on anybody. Be a tough fight. But it won't happen until next year likely, when that fight is a little more bigger, juicier, and is marinated a little more, as Crawford, his star power is just not at that level yet. Only 50K buys his last pay-per-view, but you really can't measure a guy's pay-per-view buys when his B-side opponent is not recognizably known. You got to measure it with a guy who is more known. And they're not going to make that fight just yet. It doesn't really do big business, Pacquiao-Crawford. Probably wouldn't even break 500K. And it's not like the Vargas fight is a huge difference between pay-per-view buys. Maybe Crawford does a little more, or maybe around the same type of numbers. It really, there's not much of a difference between pay-per-view buys of the two fights. Besides, the Vargas fight will be an action fight. He'll come to fight. It would produce some action, and most likely will produce another win for Manny Pacquiao and another strap in his collection. But you can't fully blame Pacquiao's team for this fight against Jesse Vargas. Them pussy Heyman fighters didn't want that work with Manny Pacquiao. Guys pricing themselves out, even guys lying to the media about getting offers. But he most likely did get an offer. And then Danny Garcia. Adrian Broner thinks he's worth $10 million when he's never made more than $1 million around $1.2 million in a fight. And Keith Thurman had a fake-ass call-out against Pacquiao. Called him out knowing full damn well he wasn't going to fight him, because he's not going to fight for the rest of the year. So a bunch of pussy Heyman fighters bitched out in the fight against Manny Pacquiao when the opportunity was presented to him. And Pacquiao was forced to fight Vargas. Since Crawford is not willing to move up in weight just yet, and the fight needs to be marinated a little more, and Bob Arum and Pacquiao would like to have one more big payday in a Mayweather rematch. And we both feel that it's a very winnable fight, especially with a healthy Manny Pacquiao at 100%. Still believe Pacquiao won the first fight, even at less than 100%. And if he could still display that level he showed against Bradley, well, it's always tough to get a decision against Mayweather in Vegas. But if anybody could do it, it's Pacquiao. If he could beat the shit out of Mayweather like he was in spots in the first fight, just can't back off like he did. Well, that was because he wasn't 100%. But that's the plan, y'all. Pacquiao picking up a strap, getting that rematch. It'll be very difficult to get a decision in Vegas against Floyd. But win or lose, the fight with Crawford will most likely happen in 2017, but in the welterweight division. And we'll see how much Manny has left by then, when that fight gets made sometime in 2017. This is Boxing Truth. I'm out.